They say there's a camera for every person, right? If you want to travel light with a smaller camera, there's Micro Four Thirds. While the APS-C sensor system is often favoured for more speedy burst rates. And then there's the larger full-frame format that delivers that special image quality. But what if there was a camera that combined all the best bits from these three systems? Well, if there is such a camera, it could well be the Canon R8. Is this Canon's most underrated full-frame offering? Let's find out. Welcome to Adventures in Aperture.
My name is Matty and this is Adventures in Aperture, the place to be for those seeking a deeper dive into camera and lens reviews. Come along as we explore cool locations with gear new and old, all in the pursuit of enjoying photography.
So the Canon R8 was launched back in February 2023 and in my opinion has been one of the cameras that has flown pretty far under the radar. Canon has some amazing cameras and it's not a huge surprise that the R8, which is essentially Canon's entry-level full-frame model, gets far less headlines than say the R5 II or the new R6 Mark III. But dig a little deeper and there's clearly more to this story because while there is a fair amount missing from the R8 and plenty of compromises, there's also a huge amount that makes this little camera an attractive proposition for the right photographer. But who is this photographer and would the R8 be the right camera for you? Well, let's start by going over the basics. The R8 features that full frame sensor and serves up 24.2 megapixels of resolution. Now that's not big figures, but it's pretty standard across this level of cameras and doesn't really tell the full story of image quality, which we'll talk more about later. The R8 also features a vast ISO range, a really great vari-angle LCD and the ability to employ its electronic shutter to capture up to 40 frames per second. All wrapped up in a tiny weather-sealed body that tips the scales at only 461 grams. But while the R8 does offer many impressive features, there's bound to be some compromises to accommodate those tiny dimensions. First up is the fact that the R8 doesn't offer IBIS, though this can be mitigated to a degree by using image stabilized lenses. What's more, the R8 features only a single SD card slot, and this isn't in the usual place on the side of the camera, it's instead found behind the battery compartment hatch. And talking of batteries, the R8 uses the smaller LPE17 battery rather than the typical LPE6 battery found in most Canon full-frame cameras. Out of all these compromises I've just mentioned, it's the different battery that bothers me the most, as it's likely that long-term Canon users like myself will have stockpiled extra batteries, like third-party batteries that you've picked up along the way, and you simply can't use them with the R8. That said, although the R8's battery is rated for around 220 shots, I took this camera out on a cold winter night and got far more images than that in reality. Now, back to who this camera is actually for, and although this isn't an easy question to answer, I'm going to have a go. I believe this camera is a great option for travel photographers who want to carry lightweight gear but don't want to compromise on image quality. Here's the thing, I love Micro Four Thirds cameras and I love it for its portability, but look at the size of the R8 when you compare it to the GH7. The full frame camera is actually smaller than the Micro Four Thirds camera. Small cameras are often spoilt by the bigger lenses that you pair with them, but this doesn't always have to be the case and certainly isn't with the R8, especially when you pair it with an optic like the 24-50, a tiny collapsible optic that barely weighs anything. With this lens paired to the R8, the whole combo genuinely fits in my jacket pocket. Imagine that, a full frame Canon camera that you can carry in your pocket and not even need a bag for. Pretty cool. But to pigeonhole the R8 as just a travel camera is selling it short. Thanks to that burst rate of up to 40 frames per second in electronic shutter mode, just 6 with the mechanical shutter, you can capture fast action, further widening the appeal of this camera. What's more, the autofocus system in the R8 is first class. It's actually the same autofocus from the R6 Mark II, and it works incredibly well in low light conditions. And there's eye detection and even subject detection available too. Now let's talk more about the image quality, which punches well above the weight of this tiny camera. Pair the R8 with a fast aperture lens and you can capture some amazing results. I was lucky enough to get some time with the Canon 85 1.4L VCM lens, and it makes for a really great portrait combo. This is the cheat code. You're getting that lovely full frame look with great bokeh and a shallow depth of field from a camera that weighs practically nothing. Here's a slideshow of images I captured in a range of different light situations, pairing the R8 with both that 85mm prime, but also the lightweight 24-50 and a range of EF glass used via an adapter. Now, the video features in the R8 further reinforce this camera's credentials as an unsung hero in Canon's full-frame lineup. The big thing to know here is that there's 4K 60p on offer and it's uncropped. It's actually oversampled from 6K data, so the image is really incredibly sharp, and although I didn't get to shoot too much video when testing the R8, you can see some examples of footage on the screen now. Also present is Canon's C-Log 3 profile, so you can colour grade the footage to a high degree, and there's also ports for headphones and an external mic, so enhanced audio can be both captured and monitored with this camera. These settings may sound run-of-the-mill, but let's remember that R8 is supposed to be an entry-level camera, but I could easily see a vlogger making use of these features, or perhaps an indie filmmaker using the R8 as a B camera. One thing to be aware of though is that the slow motion features are limited to full HD, which is a shame but entirely predictable. Other features to mention are the ergonomics of the R8. If you look at the top, we have a dedicated switch for switching between stills and video, which is great. But this is offset by the lack of a joystick on the back of the camera, so to move your focus point you have to use the touchscreen or use the D-pad, which does feel a little dated. Again, this isn't a deal breaker, but just one of those things that we likely take for granted on more expensive bodies. When it comes to rivals to the R8, it's important to remember that many will have already invested in Canon lenses, so comparing alternatives is always a bit tricky, but newcomers looking for a full frame camera may want to weigh up the R8 against cameras like the Sony a7C II, which offers more resolution but is obviously more expensive. Then there's the Panasonic S5 II, or you've got Canon's arch rivals Nikon with the Z6 II or the Z5. But none of these cameras can match the R8 for value. In the UK, you can pick up a new R8 for $14.99, and used models are now available, because it's been around for 2 years, from around £900. That's ridiculous value. So how do we sum up the R8? Well, as I said earlier, I think Canon struck upon a cheat code with the R8, albeit a slightly flawed and compromised cheat code. The R8 gives you arguably the best bits of the R6 Mark II, including the autofocus and processor engine, and a far smaller and more affordable body. Photographers of multiple genres love the fact that the R8 is small and lightweight, and it goes some way to stealing the thunder from Micro Four Thirds cameras, while at the same time giving you excellent image quality and of course that full frame look. But when you wrap in the additional video specifications and price tag, the R8 as a package becomes a very tempting proposition. Yes, some of the compromises may well prove to be deal breakers for some, but others may wonder why they spent more money on a pricier model when the R8 can deliver such brilliant results. But what do you think about the R8? Would you like to see more cameras like this from Canon, or are you sticking to more flagship models? Let me know in the comments section, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.